My name is Arthur Bernard, and at 72 years old, I believed I had a comprehensive understanding of what betrayal felt like. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. As it turned out, I was a complete novice. The lawyer's pronouncement still ricocheted through my thoughts as I stood on the manicured lawn of the suburban home I'd shared with my wife for over 35 years. The words felt foreign, impossible. The waterfront condo in Miami is bequeathed to Isabella. The mountain lodge is yours, Arthur. When I finally mustered the courage to call my daughter, hoping to unravel what had to be a grotesque misunderstanding, her response obliterated the last vestiges of my composure. A lodge? Isabella's voice, usually so full of life, was now laced with a venom I'd never heard before. How fitting. Mom finally realized what your true value was. Isabella, darling, there must have been a mistake. I pleaded, my voice thin. Oh, the only mistake, Dad, was Mom taking so long to see you for what you've always been, a useless old man. Her words were like daggers. For 40 years, all you did was stand by her side and smile at parties. At least the inheritance is finally an accurate reflection of your contribution to her success. The sheer cruelty of it stole my breath. How can you say that to me? Because it's the unvarnished truth, she shot back. The condo is for people who achieve things. The lodge, well, that's where forgotten things are sent to decay. Just 3 days later, Isabella arrived, not with an olive branch, but with a team of movers and a formal eviction notice. I stood by, a ghost in my own home, watching impassively as strangers methodically packed my memories, my life, into cardboard boxes. My own daughter supervised the entire process with a chilling, detached efficiency. The lodge is about a 3-hour drive north, into the Blue Ridge Mountains, she stated, pressing a set of keys into my palm without once meeting my gaze. Don't hold your breath for any visits. As my old sedan climbed the winding mountain roads toward this so-called inheritance, a strange transformation began to occur within me. The profound hurt, the raw wound of betrayal, was slowly being cauterized by something harder, something sharper, and far more perilous. The lodge, when I finally saw it, was even more dilapidated than my darkest imaginings. A sagging roof, shattered window panes, and wood that was visibly rotting. Yet, as I shouldered open the creaking front door, I stopped dead in my tracks. The interior was pristine. Modern, comfortable furniture was perfectly arranged. The electricity hummed to life at the flick of a switch, and the kitchen was not only modern but fully stocked with provisions. This wasn't a place of abandonment. It was a meticulously maintained safe house. In a small back office, I found a heavy oak desk with a locked drawer. With a steady hand and an old letter opener, I managed to jimmy the lock. Inside, a false bottom revealed what would become the catalyst for my new life. Bundles of cash, bound by rubber bands, and a collection of journals bound in dark green leather, filled with my wife Eleanor's unmistakable script. The very first entry turned the blood in my veins to ice. Arthur suspects nothing. He's a good man, but utterly useless for anything beyond being a charming social accessory. The real work, the important work, requires partners of a different caliber. 40 years of a shared life, and my wife had been documenting her utter contempt for me with painstaking detail. But even more staggering were the detailed accounts of her criminal enterprises. Money laundering, political bribery, massive corporate fraud. She had constructed an entire criminal empire, while I, her devoted husband, played the part of the perfect, oblivious spouse. The final entry, penned just months before her death, delivered the ultimate betrayal. Isabella gets everything of consequence. Arthur gets the lodge, It's far more than he deserves for 40 years of being purely decorative. I sat there, in that silent office, enveloped by the tangible proof of decades of lies and deception. And in that moment, something inside me didn't just break. It crystallized into something new. They had both made the same catastrophic error in judgment. They had confused decorative with powerless. If they were so eager to see what a useless old man could truly accomplish, then I was more than ready to provide a masterclass. If anyone has ever tried to convince you that you're too old to rewrite your own story, allow me to state unequivocally that they are lying. Your narrative is not finished, and there are still powerful chapters waiting to be written. Our best-selling book, Asterisk, Reclaiming Your Peace After Pain, Asterisk, is filled with simple, actionable steps designed to help you heal, rebuild your life, and find joy in it once more. Click the link in the description box below and take the first step toward your new beginning today. This lodge was more than just a hideaway. It was Eleanor's command center. Hidden compartments in the walls yielded a trove of evidence. Detailed financial ledgers, photographs of clandestine meetings, damning audio recordings. There was enough information here to utterly dismantle the empire Isabella now controlled. But the journals, they were my most potent weapon. Eleanor had recorded everything. Isabella's direct involvement in the laundering operations, her ambitious expansion of their criminal network, and even her chillingly pragmatic plan to neutralize the father liability by exiling me to this mountain prison. They hadn't just cast me aside. They had conspired to eliminate me as a potential threat to their illicit world. I dedicated the next 3 days to meticulously cataloging the evidence and researching Isabella's current business dealings. The Miami condo wasn't just her home. It served as the headquarters for a laundering operation that cleaned millions of illicit dollars every single year. Using the sophisticated satellite communication gear I found in the lodge, I began to discreetly disseminate carefully curated pieces of evidence to federal authorities, investigative journalists, and even Isabella's criminal associates. My first outreach was to Ethan Vance, a Pulitzer-winning investigative journalist known for his tenacity. I provided him with bank statements detailing bribes paid to city officials and clear photographs of Isabella meeting with known cartel figures. This is the most significant corruption story to come out of this city in decades, Ethan whispered, his excitement palpable as he reviewed the files. My second contact was with FBI Special Agent Miller. To her, I delivered financial records that laid bare a systematic scheme of money laundering and rampant tax evasion. This documentation could bring down an entire criminal network, Agent Miller stated, her expression grimly professional. But my most audacious move was contacting Veronica Soto, one of Isabella's key criminal partners. I sent her encrypted proof that Isabella had been systematically skimming from their joint ventures to the tune of nearly $500,000 over the last 2 years. Veronica Soto was not a woman known for her forgiving nature. While the federal investigation slowly began to gain momentum, I decided a personal visit to Isabella's Miami condo was in order. I needed to assess her psychological state and perhaps gather more current intelligence. The building's security was formidable, but not insurmountable. I dressed in an elegant suit and approached the front desk with an air of confident authority. "I'm Arthur Bernard, Isabella's father," I said with a warm smile. I wanted to surprise her. The young receptionist, recognizing the name, immediately granted me access. "She's mentioned you, sir. I'll let you wait in her apartment." The condo was a monument to criminal extravagance, a cold, sterile space filled with expensive, impersonal art. As I moved through the rooms, I noticed revealing details, multiple, discreetly placed security cameras, a heavily reinforced door I recognized as a panic room, a fine white powder on a glass coffee table, and several prescription bottles for anxiety medication on the nightstand. Isabella was projecting the image of a successful, carefree heiress, but the immense stress was clearly taking its toll. When she arrived home unexpectedly, her shock was absolute. "Father, this is unexpected. I wanted to see your beautiful inheritance for myself," I replied, my tone light and pleasant. I could see her mind racing, trying to reconcile the composed, elegant man before her with the broken old man she had evicted. "You look tired, dear," I observed casually. "All these security measures must be quite draining. Motion sensors, cameras everywhere, that impressive panic room. Are you afraid of something in particular?" Isabella's hand froze halfway to her wine glass. "Security is just standard procedure for a property of this value." "Of course," I said, nodding thoughtfully. "Though, in my experience, people only go to the expense of installing panic rooms when they are genuinely, deeply afraid of a specific threat." I paused, letting the silence hang in the air. "I've been unearthing the most fascinating things at my lodge. So many hidden treasures, so many secrets. Your mother documented her various interests with remarkable thoroughness." I watched the color drain from Isabella's face as she began to process the implications of my words. "I should be going," I announced, moving gracefully toward the door. "Thank you for the lovely, if brief, visit." I paused in the doorway and turned back. "Oh, and Isabella, I'm discovering that I am quite resourceful when I'm properly motivated. It's truly amazing what a person can accomplish." I left her standing there, a statue of dawning horror in her own home. The seeds of paranoia and doubt had been successfully planted. Over the subsequent weeks, I systematically escalated my campaign, launching attacks from multiple, seemingly unrelated fronts. The strategy was to create a series of overlapping crises that would completely overwhelm her capacity to respond effectively. I anonymously forwarded evidence to 3 men. Isabella was currently dating, exposing her deceptions and criminal connections. Leo, her attorney boyfriend, was appalled to learn he was romantically involved with the very type of criminal he prosecuted for a living. Julian, a prominent socialite, found his reputation in tatters when incriminating information about Isabella surfaced at his exclusive country club. And Mateo, a photographer whose sister had tragically died from an overdose, was devastated to learn that Isabella was laundering money for the same kind of drug operations. All 3 relationships disintegrated within a matter of days. Simultaneously, I reached out to Eleanor's illegitimate children, 3 families she had supported in secret throughout our marriage. Daniel Peterson, Carlos Gomez, and Brian Lee were all shocked to discover they'd been completely excluded from the inheritance while Isabella received everything. They immediately filed lawsuits, demanding to be recognized as rightful heirs. Their children took their stories to the media, creating a firestorm of negative press about the corrupt businesswoman who inherited a fortune while her half-siblings struggled financially. Daniel's daughter, Sophia Peterson, proved to be particularly adept, leveraging social media to expose Isabella's criminal activities to her hundreds of thousands of followers. The pressure was clearly mounting. Using advanced surveillance equipment I had discovered at the lodge, I listened in on Isabella's increasingly frantic phone calls. "Someone is methodically tearing my life apart," she confided to a business associate. "They have access to Mom's private files, and they're using everything against me." "Do you have any idea who it could be?" the associate asked. "It could be the feds," Isabella mused. Or maybe Veronica testing my loyalty, or... She paused for a long moment. God help me, it could even be my father. The federal raids commenced at dawn, precisely as I had planned. From a discreet observation point across the street, I watched as a swarm of FBI agents stormed Isabella's building, while news crews eagerly captured every moment. Isabella was led out in handcuffs, her face a mask of disbelief, as reporters shouted out charges: money laundering, tax evasion, conspiracy, and racketeering. The woman who had dismissed me as useless was now being paraded across national television in a perp walk. But her legal troubles were only the beginning. Veronica Soto had received my evidence of Isabella's theft and was reportedly planning a permanent and brutal form of retaliation. Her other criminal partners now saw her as a massive liability, someone who knew far too much to ever be trusted to stand trial. The media coverage was relentless and devastating. Eleanor's illegitimate children gave heart-wrenching interviews, describing their anger and sense of abandonment. Mateo Rodriguez appeared on several talk shows, speaking movingly about the irony of having dated someone complicit in the very drug trade that had claimed his sister's life. Public opinion turned virulently against Isabella. The narrative was stark and compelling. The spoiled daughter of a criminal inheriting a dirty fortune while her mother's other children were left with nothing. I visited Isabella in federal detention. I needed her to know without a shadow of a doubt who had orchestrated her downfall. In her drab orange jumpsuit, she looked utterly broken, her customary arrogance replaced by a raw, desperate fear. "You came to gloat," she rasped through the thick, bulletproof glass. "No," I said calmly. "I came to ensure you understand the absolute finality of your circumstances. Your empire is gone. Your inheritance is being seized by the government. Your former partners want you dead. Your relationships are all destroyed. You did this to yourself. You destroyed everything." "I revealed the truth of everything," I corrected her. "Your mother built her empire on crimes that devastated innocent people. You not only inherited those crimes, you expanded upon them." "But you're my father," she cried, her voice cracking. "I times was times your father," I replied, my voice steady. "You terminated that relationship the moment you called me useless and threw me out of my home. Now, I am simply a private citizen who provided evidence of extensive criminal activity to the proper authorities." Isabella leaned forward, her eyes wild with desperation. "There has to be something you want. You threw away the only thing I ever truly valued," I said softly. "A loving relationship with my daughter. Everything else you ever possessed was built upon a foundation of lies and criminality. I stood up to leave. Your mother taught you that love was a weakness and family was merely an obligation. I tried to teach you that those lessons were profoundly wrong. The man you so casually dismissed as useless turned out to be the most dangerous person in your world." Isabella was ultimately sentenced to 35 years in federal prison. The judge, in his sentencing, called her crimes a staggering betrayal of public trust that demands the maximum possible punishment. Her ill-gotten inheritance was seized and distributed among her victims and her newly discovered half-siblings. Sophia Peterson used her share to create a foundation for the children of crime victims. Brian Lee's son, Kevin, used his exceptional computer skills to help authorities uncover additional corruption. The Gomez twins started community outreach programs dedicated to fighting organized crime in their neighborhood. Veronica Soto was arrested in an unrelated federal sting, which conveniently eliminated the immediate threat to Isabella's life. But it also meant she would serve her full sentence in the general prison population. 6 months later, I sat on the balcony of my new oceanfront home in Naples, Florida, which I had purchased with the proceeds from the sale of the lodge and my legally awarded share of the seized assets. The morning paper carried a small, buried article. Former Miami developer attacked in prison. Isabella was now in protective custody, but she was alive. I felt no satisfaction from her ongoing suffering. That chapter of my life was definitively closed. My days were now filled with painting classes, book clubs, volunteer work at the local animal shelter, and long walks on the beach with my rescue dog, Buddy. I was writing a memoir, which I titled *Useful, A Man's Guide to Reclaiming Power After Betrayal*. Men from all over the country who had read about my story in the news began writing me letters, sharing their own struggles against being dismissed and betrayed. I made a point to correspond with them, offering strategies and words of encouragement. One letter, in particular, resonated deeply. "Mr. Bernard, my wife left me for her boss and told me I had contributed nothing to our marriage or her success. Reading about your refusal to be discarded has given me the strength to fight for what I rightfully earned and deserve. Thank you for showing me that being underestimated is not a weakness, but a strategic advantage." Agent Miller called me one morning. "Isabella wants to speak with you," she said. "She's claiming to have information about additional criminal activities, but says she'll only share it if she can talk to you first." Even from behind bars, she was still trying to manipulate family ties for her own personal gain. "Please inform my daughter," I said, my voice firm, "that the man who dismantled her criminal enterprise has absolutely no interest in helping her negotiate a reduced sentence. If she genuinely possesses information that could help other victims, she should provide it unconditionally." "Should I tell her you declined her request?" Agent Miller asked. "Tell her," I said, looking out at the calm ocean, "that Arthur Bernard is busy building a new life, one based on truth and justice. And tell her, I simply don't have time to enable the continued selfishness of someone who has yet to learn that all actions have consequences. Isabella would have to find her own path to redemption." My part in her story was finally, truly complete. A year after the sentencing, I had an unexpected visitor. Sophia Peterson drove down from her home to thank me in person. "Mr. Bernard," she said as we sat on my porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and purple, "I just wanted you to know that I understand the sacrifice you made. Destroying your own daughter couldn't have been easy." "Isabella destroyed herself, Sophia," I corrected her gently. "I simply refused to stand by and enable her to destroy others." "You made the choice to do what was right, not what was easy," she said, her eyes filled with admiration. "That required a level of courage I'm not sure I would have possessed." "Ashley," I replied, "for 40 years of my life, I consistently chose what was easy over what was right. It nearly corroded my soul. I've learned that sometimes the most loving and courageous thing a person can do is refuse to enable someone's worst instincts." Today, I am 75 years old, and for the first time, I am living a life entirely of my own design. My memoir became a national bestseller. I now speak at conferences about reclaiming one's power after experiencing profound betrayal, and I've had the privilege of helping dozens of men fight for justice in their own lives. Isabella remains in prison, where she will likely stay for several more decades. Her criminal empire has been utterly destroyed. Its victims have been compensated, and her half-siblings are now thriving. People sometimes ask me if I have any regrets about destroying my daughter's life. My answer is always the same. I didn't destroy Isabella's life. I merely exposed its true foundation, which was built on a bedrock of crime, cruelty, and contempt. The useless old man proved to be the most formidable person in her world. I learned that being underestimated isn't a vulnerability. It's a form of camouflage that grants you the freedom to move undetected while you meticulously plan your adversary's undoing. My wife called me decorative. My daughter called me useless. They were both profoundly mistaken. I was the weapon they never saw coming. And now I was finally completely free. Have you ever been dismissed as too old, too quiet, or too unimportant to make a difference? Have you been told that your best years are long gone, that you should just be grateful for whatever scraps of respect you're given? Every single person who has ever underestimated you has inadvertently given you a tremendous gift, the gift of their blindness to your true capabilities. The man in this story discovered that 40 years of being overlooked had taught him everything he needed to know about how power truly operates in the world. He learned that the most dangerous person in any room is often the one nobody is paying any attention to. Your age is not a limitation. It is a strategic advantage. Your experience is not a burden. It is a weapon. Your supposed invisibility is not a curse. It is your camouflage. Our book, Reclaiming Your Peace After Pain, will teach you how to transform experience into power, how to turn pain into a driving purpose, and how to construct a life that commands the respect you have always deserved. Don't let anyone convince you that your story has already been written. Don't ever accept less than you are worth. And never let anyone make you believe that being underestimated makes you powerless. Click the link in the description to order your copy today. Learn how to stop being a victim of other people's limited expectations and start being the architect of your own justice. Remember, respect isn't something you have to ask for. It's something you take back from those who never deserved the power to give or withhold it in the first place. Your revolution begins now. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.